Hey everyone, and welcome back to Joey's Retro Newscast. It's Friday. That means I have your retro handheld, retro gaming, and gaming news. I'm back. I hope you had a good break. I don't know if you did. I did. I was off for about 3 weeks or so, and I'm back, and you might notice that something's a little bit different. I'm trying something new. I usually have a green screen. I usually do all that sort of thing, but it's a little difficult to manage. So I want to check with you. You let me know by the end of today. Is this fine with you? How today's going to work and how today's going to look? If not, I'll go back to the green screen, but I wasn't sure if it would be good or not. Let's get into the news. The PS2 emulator on PC, PCSX2 2.6 is now out, and with it comes a bunch of new features. There is better feature parity for big picture mode and the interface as far as the actual things go on screen. There's a new icon for retro achievements, which I wouldn't call that a major feature, but sure. Korean game titles and game shortcut creation features. There are a few different things here. I was reading this earlier. There is a whole bunch of information on improvements to hardware renderers, like the Direct 3D 12 and all of that. So lots of stuff. You should update if you have PCSX2, because there's no reason not to. Then we move over into Snapdragon 8 Elite custom driver news. This news for actual turn-up drivers and all of that looks like it is not that far away. So we probably are a month or so away according to this whole write-up from Rob Clark. So not that long. However, you might have realized or noticed that 2 days ago, there was a release for custom drivers from Kimchi for the 8 Elite. Now this was a little weird. It released, it was broken, then they were fixed, and now it's back out. And as of right now, it is very beta. It is very hacky. Even Kimchi is telling you that, so just be careful with it. But if you want to try it out, you can. I did see from a lot of people that it's maybe not ready for prime time. So you might want to wait a little bit longer, but some work is being done on the 8 Elite, so that's cool. Speaking of work being done, GameHub Lite has added SD card support for Steam games. So that means that you can now have your actual Steam games on the SD card. That does mean, I'm going to imagine, a lot of people are going to need better SD cards, A2, all that sort of thing, because running actual Steam games off of an SD card instead of the internal storage is probably going to be a little bit tough. So just be careful with this one. If you're going to do it and you're running into issues, it's likely going to be your SD card. But either way, awesome news to be able to put your actual Steam games on the SD card now, thanks to GameHub Lite. And last of the software news, GameNative is updated to 0.6.2. There's a few different updates here, but the reason I put this in the newscast is they are planning to have GOG and Epic support pretty soon. So if those two launchers or stores interest you, you want to keep an eye on GameNative because GOG and Epic support is coming pretty soon alongside Steam, and that's awesome. And I guess I should have mentioned, I forgot here, GameHub Lite and GameNative are both Windows PC emulators. You use them to play Steam on Android, in case you didn't know. Okay, so question of the week. How was your Christmas vacation? That's not the actual question, but if you remember, before we went on Christmas vacation, we had a few newscasts, and in one of them I said, what are your goals? What do you plan to do during the Christmas break? And so I'm here again asking, did you complete those goals? Now, for me, I had lofty ones. I had plans to do a lot of games, and I'm thankful to say that I was able to do that. So over the break, I finished Live Alive, the Steam version, 100 Line Defense Academy. I was in the middle of the second scenario, so I just finished that up. That was another 10 hours or so. It was quite a bit. Octopath Traveler 0 from start to finish. That game is so awesome. If you want a really good game to play, JRPG turn-based, Octopath Traveler 0, it is much better than the first two, just to give you some context. I like the first two, but the third one is the best. Shinobi Art of Vengeance, oh, it's so very good. Triangle Strategy, I had 10 hours left and I just wrapped it up, finished it. That is a very long game. There is a lot of dialogue and stuff in Triangle Strategy, but it's a good game. And Ninja Gaiden Ragebound. Not that long of a game, but like Shinobi, both are awesome. Really good games this year that have come out. I am working on, almost done the Apollo Justice Ace Attorney trilogy, so I have one episode left. I'm almost done that. So I have done a lot of gaming over the Christmas break. It was really good for me to just relax and play through all these games that I had on my backlog and get them off of it. So I'm very curious to know, how about you? How did it all go? I think for me, Live Alive was the only game that really didn't hit for games that I played. I kind of just pushed myself to push through and finish it. But otherwise, had a lot of fun with all the other games. I will get back to retro games this month with our Game of the Months and all that. I've just been on a modern kick. So let me know in the comments, how did your Christmas break go? Okay, heading over into device news now. And there is a bit of a PSA here with this one. I did not know that a lot of people did not know this. So I'm going to just make this more of an announcement here. Powkiddy and Retroid, and I'm going to assume maybe others, but those are the two that I know of for sure, have massive fraud issues when it comes to ordering devices using your credit card, using their online stores. What that means is you should be using PayPal. I would not order anything in this hobby without PayPal. Put it that way. So you should be using PayPal, but you should also be aware that it's been a long-standing issue. I have known, and I've talked about this a long time ago. I don't remember when. So it's my fault for not talking about it more often. But if you order from Powkiddy.com, which in 2026, who is ordering a Powkiddy device? But if you do not use a credit card and that information, a debit card, any of that. You want to use PayPal. There's no other option here. Also, on Retroid end, Retroid's had the same problem for years. It's just gone underreported for whatever reason. So both Powkiddy and Retroid are the ones that I know about. I'm not sure about other stores, but just to be safe, use PayPal. If you can't use PayPal, do not buy from that store. That's how I work. We now have some pictures of the Retroid Pocket 6, which, if you're thinking that it is a week to release and the only picture we have is one of a purple version, and you think that's crazy, then you haven't been paying attention to Retroid over the past few years. But we do have a picture of the purple. It looks really awesome. I'm a big fan of it. It looks really good. But it would be nice to get other pictures of the other colors a week before release, you know? So this is kind of tying into the same Retroid thing that they do every single release, where they rush releases. They don't give any consumers the actual information they need. Reviewers do not have it in their hands a week before release, and I'm not including myself in that because I don't think they're actually sending me one, because they didn't send me a G2, and I haven't heard anything about the 6, so I'm pretty sure I'm on the blacklist now, or whatever, no list. They did remove me. But for reasons like this, where I'd say where there's a week to release and we have no information about what these devices look like in real life, that is absurd to me. I don't know about you, but that is kind of absurd. So yeah, that's where I'm at, but we do have pictures of purple, and look how pretty the purple is. So you can look at that for a little bit. Okay, last on the device news now, and I wasn't sure if I was actually going to discuss this on the newscast, but let's go ahead and do it anyways. Ayaneo has been under fire this week for being Ayaneo. I mean, look, there's no other way for me to put this here. Ayaneo, when you think of Ayaneo, and there's probably people that have been watching me for a long time now, when you think of Ayaneo, I'm going to let you give a second to think about what your thoughts are on Neo, but it's over-promising, under-delivering. It is overpriced. It is bad support and all of that. And it is just issues, right? Those are the 4 things you think of when it comes to Ayaneo, for anybody that's been in this space for longer than a month. So I was a little surprised, I guess, this week when all this stuff came out about Ayaneo, as if it was a surprise from, content creators that have been in the space for years. Let's put it this way. I and a lot of people don't know this, when I started, very first introduction for me to this hobby was Ayaneo. I found some Air Slim whatever 3 years ago, and I was like, oh, that looks cool. I joined their Discord, and I got to talking with a bunch of people on the Discord. I got to learning more about Ayaneo, and I did not end up buying that Ayaneo. But long story short, this was 3 years ago. All of the same things that I have seen talked about this week from the community members, various people, has been things that have been around for 3 years. I did a video on the Ayaneo Pocket Micro. 12 minutes of that video was a rant, more than the review. The rant was about Ayaneo's practices. We have talked on this show, on the very newscast, about Ayaneo many times and their failure to be able to deliver products. We talked about it, what was it? One of their flip devices not too long ago. And we've talked about it in the past with other devices. So long story short, when I saw the community feedback this week and all of that, I was like, nothing new. Like, I'm very confused about like why all of this is coming up right now. And then I thought about it a little bit more. The reason it's coming up right now is because there was 2 devices that Ayaneo probably finally released that were successful in some metric. So the Conker Pocket Fit and the Ayaneo Pocket Air Mini. Now, one of those 2 devices is having issues with shipping. The Ayaneo Pocket Air Mini is fine. Everybody's been getting it. I got mine, and it's all fine. The Conker has been having problems like every other Ayaneo release has ever had. So again, not a surprise here. The main difference is that when people were recommending this device and talking about it all across the internet for the last few months, they forgot the company that was behind the actual product. So it's like, oh, look at the G3. Look at what it does for Switch. Yeah, but who makes the device? Ayaneo. Okay, so ignore it. But that didn't happen. So we're here now, months later, after recommendation from the, I'm doing this, the, what is it? Filtered down reviewer list that recommended this device to now tell us that, oh, this was a surprise Pikachu sort of thing. And no, I mean, this is just Ayaneo doing Ayaneo things. You just forgot to mention that this is what Ayaneo does. So long story short, yeah, this sucks. Yeah, Ayaneo, I don't really review. I don't really look at and all of that, which is funny because they just reached out to me asking to review the Pocket Vert, and I'm not going to. But it is just Ayaneo being Ayaneo. So this might be a wake-up call to the people who were not told about all of this. And in that case, I guess that sucks. You should have been told about Ayaneo. But yeah, this is kind of the status of ordering from Ayaneo. Now, I do want to point out why stopping reviewing Ayaneo devices isn't as altruistic as you might think. So Ayaneo doesn't have an affiliate program. Just to be completely honest with you, they don't. For Indiegogo releases. So when you're buying off of Conker, or you're buying the Conker, you're buying the Ayaneo Pocket Air Mini, whatever content creator is recommending it doesn't get a dime out of that, which is fine. It's good. However, the Ayaneo website does have an actual partner. It's called Aya Partner. It's an affiliate program. But the devices on there are old. It doesn't have a Conker, no Pocket DS, no Pocket S2. I don't even think the Pocket S is there. They're all older devices, so it hasn't really been updated. So long story short, you can pretty much go to the bank with the fact that Ayaneo has no affiliate program. Now, you might be wondering, why does that matter? Well, when you do a video on an Ayaneo device, the only manufacturer of devices that does not have an affiliate program, the only money you're getting from that is views. That's it. And if you remember, we talked about this before, on average, YouTubers in this space get about $4 per 1,000 views. That means when you do a video on an Ayaneo device, you're going to get, I don't know, you don't get a lot of views for number one compared to other devices. But number two, whatever you get, it's $4 times the number. So 20,000 views, $4 times that, you're going to get $80. That's not a lot, but you're going to get $80. Sure, whatever. That's the YouTuber thing. Now, that $80 is all you're getting. That's it. If you compare that with a Retroid, an AYN, an Ambernic, Magic X, Magme, whatever, any other device, if you did the same number of views, you're going to get that plus the affiliates. And in Retroid, AYN's case, and all the other cases, that will triple, quadruple, 5 times that number if we're looking at like the first week or whatever. Now, that is a big difference. So when it comes to the fact where you're looking at 2 different devices and you're like, am I going to review one or the other? And you're busy, the Ayaneo device is going to be left to the side because it's not going to feed your family. It's not going to do anything. I'm just being completely honest with you. I don't review Ayaneo devices, so I don't really have to be in this position. But when it's a case of Ayaneo and not reviewing them, it's actually more of a benefit to not review the Ayaneo device from a content creator perspective, because any other video you make is going to be better for the community and make you more money. So by skipping Ayaneo devices, it's not, like, I know a lot of people are like, oh, I respect everybody who does this, but it's not as altruistic as you might think, and it does not hurt the content creator to not review Ayaneo devices. It hurts the community who wants to buy those devices, but when you go and look at the number of people buying Ayaneo devices outside of the Conker Pocket Fit and Ayaneo Pocket Air Mini, their programs have been like 1,000 people max. That's not a lot of people. So when you don't see videos about setup guides, when you don't see videos about this Ayaneo device and all of that sort of thing, it's because why would anybody do that when they're only selling up to 1,000 devices? It's not enough. It really isn't to make a video on and to have people interested in. And Ayaneo over the years has kind of proven that they're a little bit untrustworthy when it comes to support, overpricing things, all of the stuff that we talked about already. To put this into perspective, Ayaneo, you're only making money on the views. With Retroid and AYN and all of that, the amount of money that I have personally made off of Retroid and AYN on affiliate links in this year, I could have bought every single Ayaneo device multiple times over and still had money left over. That is the amount of difference that we're talking about when it comes to Ayaneo versus every other company. Anyways, let's move on. Games of the month for this week are Metal Gear Solid for PlayStation 1, which I have never played Metal Gear Solid, so I'm actually going to be playing that one. I'll get into that. Pokemon Odyssey is the ROM hack for Game Boy Advance, which has been pretty cool. It's like you go into, what is it, roguelike, kind of? You go into dungeons, and then you finish the dungeons, you pop out. It's a little different than a normal Pokemon game. And then Golden Sun is our game of the season, which I have never played Golden Sun. Lies. I have the cart, but I don't remember ever playing it or beating it, so it'll be new to me. Those are our 3 games. If you want to play them, come join the Discord. That's what we're doing. We're playing games. Okay, as always, we end off the newscast with our newscast Q&A, so send in your questions to newscast@joeysretrohandhelds.com, or there's a Discord channel. You can send it in through there. First question comes in from Draven. How are you feeling about the Expedition 33 Game of the Year removal? Do you think it's fair? Should we as a community be getting used to the idea of AI being a part of everything? And if so, what's the line for that in your opinion? Minimum being no AI allowed, and 10 being AI developing the entire game with basically no user input. I didn't care. So look, this was the Indie Game Awards, and they had specific requirements to their Game Awards, and Expedition 33 didn't fit it. I love Expedition 33. The fact that they had 2 AI things that they missed, whatever, it was their requirements. So sure, if that's your requirements and the game did not meet the requirements, then yeah, I mean, remove them. That's fine. As far as AI being allowed and all of that sort of thing, I don't know where I'm at with all that stuff. I mean, obviously I don't want an AI developing the entire game, but I mean, it's not fair to say that AI won't be involved in any part of the process either. Like, what constitutes AI in this scenario? Are we talking about AI generated images? Or are we talking about using AI to fix a math problem that they're trying to solve for actually developing the game? So like, it's a little iffy on this whole thing. So I don't really have a good answer on this one. Last question of the day comes in from Pablo. What do you think is the best deal for a retro handheld device for GameCube and Game Boy Advance games? That is quite the spread there for Game Boy and Game Boy Advance and GameCube. I don't remember what the Retroid Pocket 5 price is right now, but probably that. A lot of people say Retroid Pocket 4 Pro, but I'm not a big fan of GameCube on that. So my answer is the Retroid Pocket 5, I think, whatever price that is. Although you would spend a few bucks more and get the Retroid Pocket 6 at this point if it has good reviews and all that sort of thing. So that would probably be my answer, and it is 16:9, so you get a nice big screen for Game Boy Advance. That's going to be it for this one. So appreciate you all for watching, and that's all from me, Little Canada, Minnesota.